You ever felt that? That really weird paradox of scrolling through, I don't know, 1,000 movies, a million songs, and feeling absolutely nothing. Like you're surrounded by this endless ocean of content, but it feels more like you're just trapped in a perfectly curated, perfectly predictable little room. Okay, let's really dive into what that feeling is all about.
So, yeah, this is the big question we're tackling today. Why does this digital promise of endless freedom so often end up feeling like, well, confinement, a kind of algorithmic fatigue? It's something we all feel, and we're about to unpack the fascinating and kind of wild reasons behind it.
You know, if you go back to the early 2000s, there was this idea called the long tail. It promised us this incredible, democratic wilderness of culture. Infinite digital shelf space meant every niche, every weird subculture could find its people. It was an amazing promise. But fast forward 20 years, and that wilderness, well, it looks a lot more like a perfectly manicured, suspiciously repetitive park, doesn't it? What was sold to us as freedom has become a masterclass in domestication. So, how in the world did we get from a wild, exciting forest to a boring, manicured park? To figure that out, we've got to look at the tool we were all given to navigate that wilderness. And this, right here, is the heart of the problem. The very compass we thought was our guide actually became our fence. That compass, of course, is the recommendation engine. But here's the thing, when a compass gets optimized enough, it stops showing you new directions and starts building a fence to keep you exactly where you are. The source material for this calls it digital taxidermy, which is just a perfect description. The algorithm takes the living, breathing wildness of your curiosity and stuffs it, turns it into a predictable trophy on a database wall. Let's look at how this actually works. In computer science, there's something called the hill climbing problem. The algorithm is fantastic at getting you to the top of your local peak, the best version of what you already like. Think of your favorite lo-fi beats playlist, but it can't guide you to a much higher global peak, a totally new passion, because to get there, it would have to take you through the valley of discomfort first. And why won't it take you through that valley? Well, because to a product manager, your personal growth, that friction you feel when learning a new taste, it looks exactly like a product failure. It's what they call a churn risk. The algorithm literally sees your struggle to learn something new as a bad user experience. So the system is designed from the ground up to prioritize your immediate comfort over your long-term growth, keeping you safe on that small hill rather than risking you leave for the mountain. And this obsession with avoiding churn risk really points to a huge misunderstanding at the core of these systems. It's a philosophical mistake, really, about how we human beings discover things. It confuses the process of making something better with the process of making something totally new. It all comes down to the difference between two words, risk and uncertainty. Risk, well, that's the algorithm's home turf. The future is unknown, sure, but the probabilities are calculable based on your past clicks. Because you liked X, you'll probably like Y. Easy. But uncertainty, that's totally different. That's the messy, beautiful domain of human creativity and true discovery. The probabilities are completely unknown because there is literally no precedent for it. This visual illustrates what's called the Nicene gap. The algorithm is an absolute master of correlation. That's the bell curve of predictable outcomes. But it's completely, utterly blind to causality, the why behind your taste, the irrational jumps, and black swan moments that define real, genuine discovery. Let me put it another way. An algorithm can analyze 1,000,000 candles and tell you how to make the perfect, better, longer-lasting candle. That's optimization. It's great at that. But it can never, ever invent the light bulb. Why? Because a light bulb isn't just a better candle. It's a causal leap, a moment of invention that the data could never have predicted. So where does all this leave us? Well, we get trapped in what the source calls the void of the plenum. Now, it's not a void of emptiness. It's a void of being overfull with predicted satisfaction until it all becomes meaningless. The algorithm eliminates the other, anything truly challenging or foreign, and it just gives us an infinite polished reflection of ourselves. The unexpected is systematically hunted to extinction. Okay, so that's the diagnosis. And I know it sounds a little bleak, but there is some good news here. We are not powerless. So now we're going to look at the prescription, a clear, actionable strategy for how we can fight back and reclaim our own wonderfully unpredictable curiosity. Now, the solution isn't to smash our phones and go live in the woods. It's a strategic shift from passive consumption to an idea called active friction. See, if the algorithm's greatest sin is removing resistance, then our greatest defense has to be intentionally seeking out things that resist us, that challenge us.
True agency isn't in the next button, it's in the struggle. So what we need is an epistemic rebellion, and it's a strategy in 3 parts. First, we're going to learn to cultivate incoherence. Second, we'll scale the incomputable. And third, we are going to take the analog gamble. Let's break those down.
All right, tactic 1, cultivate incoherence. This is fun. You need to intentionally feed the machine noise. Go search for things you have zero interest in. Watch a documentary on a subject you find tedious. The whole point is to make your data profile blurry, incoherent, illegible to the machine. Because remember, confusion is the only real camouflage in a prediction economy. Tactic 2, scale the incomputable. The algorithm loves snippets, 15-second clips, 280-character thoughts. They're just so easy to optimize. Your resistance, then, is to commit to a scale of information it just can't process easily. A 600-page biography, a complex symphony. These things contain way more noise and potential for true discovery than 1,000 recommended for you posts could ever offer. And finally, tactic 3, the analog gamble. Go seek out environments governed by human chaos, not clean data. Go to a physical bookstore. You might find an amazing book because its spine is crooked, or because some random person left it on the wrong shelf. That random, bad data reintroduces pure chance into the loop, and it is infinitely more valuable for your mind than a perfect algorithmic pick. So it all comes back to this. We were promised a wilderness, and we ended up in a park. But to be human is to act when the database has no answer. We have to stop mindlessly clicking next and intentionally step off that manicured grid, go looking for that valley of discomfort, and reclaim the wild forest for ourselves. Because in the end, the goal isn't just to find a better movie or a better song. It's about preserving our capacity for surprise, for invention, for a future that isn't just a slightly better version of the past. The only future worth living in is the one that the machine never saw coming.